Sounds good. Okay, everybody, we will be right back. I'm Alex Merklinger with Ted Gunderson. We're going to bring our guest on, John Decamp. So please. Oh, everybody, live radio is something that very few people can appreciate. But at this time, what I'd like to do is bring back not only my co-host for the week, Ted Gunderson, but one of the most outstanding people I think you're all going to hear from and about, and a real human being, and you'll understand why in a minute, Mr. John Decamp.
Okay, let me interrupt. He's laughing because he caught me in the shower, and I'm sitting here trying to dry off. I forgot, and I apologize.
Well, that's all right.
You got about the show, John?
Yeah, now I got some shorts on at least.
Well, that's good. See,
that's not like you to forget. You're not forgettable.
Oh, God, you wouldn't believe the day I've had.
This is why radio is so good, John, because you can actually sit there in your underwear and nobody knows.
Anyway.
Yes, sir. John Decamp.
Well, let's tell the audience who John Decamp is, Alex.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do, if I can stop, from laughing or smiling. Everybody, John Decamp is probably one of the most outstanding people I've heard about. Number one, John, you have an incredible history as a soldier in our military, and we'll talk about that.
Let's see, we lost that war, as I recall.
Well, we sure didn't try to win it. All right?
Yeah.
Well, one of the reasons we lost it. You've told me that.
Why?
I'll let John explain it later on. Go ahead and introduce him.
John is a state senator, former.
No, I was.
Former. You also ran for the U.S. Senate, too.
Yeah, I lost.
Ran for Attorney General.
Lost that one, too. Attorney General lost it. But
I'm the first, last, and only one you'll get to talk to or meet in your life who won his first Senate race without ever being in the United States or setting foot in any U.S. territory. I ran the entire campaign from Vietnam during the war.
I remember reading that.
Yeah, it was the national press that gave me that ended up making me win.
But, John, you are an attorney, a practicing attorney. You have a legal services organization.
Brilliant. Don't let him talk that way.
and
he doesn't try, does it.
Oh, my God. Yeah, right. That's right. But also, John, you wrote a book, which to me is one of the most incredible books. It's shocking. It grabs me right at the core of my soul when I read some of this stuff. And everybody, it's called The Franklin Cover-Up by John W. Decamp. And this is a book that I'm telling you, if you have any feeling of what Ted Gunderson and I have been talking about with our really special guest this week, this is a book you've got to get a hold of, because it'll tell you exactly what's going on. I mean, and John, I tip my hat to you again and again and again for writing a book like this.
Yeah, but do you know the real story of how Ted and I met?
No, he was...
Ted was hired to prove me full of beans.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, he was hired. Ted was an old football star from the most sacred school in the United States of America that has its official religion as football, Big Red, Nebraska, And Ted used to be a football player there, and in his old age, after he retired from the FBI, some of his old classmates hired him to come back and do an investigation and prove that I was full of beans and I was a troublemaker and saying terrible, horrible things about some of the most powerful, prominent people in the United States of America, and so on and so forth. So he came back, and one thing led to another, and we ended up being, I suppose, kind of lifelong closest friends as a result of him standing up and saying, "Hey, Decamp's the one telling the truth here."
Well, you weren't full of beans, but I found out you were a troublemaker, John.
Yeah, but it's a good troublemaker we
that's
need.
True.
Yeah, but that's
because he stands for the truth. That's why.
That's the thing right there. Yeah.
And by the way, that was I had some fascinating experiences in Nebraska because of this case, and I don't know how many times I've been back there, 5, 6, 7 times.
Yeah.
And the first time I went back, it was a request from a very prominent man there in Lincoln, Nebraska, His name was Ed Weaver, who's since retired and moved to Colorado. And he says, you got to find out about this guy Decamp. We need to know about him. So I went back, and basically, by the way, I've done all this on my own, out of my own finances, and it went on from there. And I'm the kind of a person or an investigator, whatever you want to call me, that once I get into something, I don't back off. As John, that's maybe one of the reasons we're such good friends, because both of us are tigers, and we get a hold of something and we keep going.
Because we don't know any better.
Well, especially in areas that have to be exposed, like what we've been talking about this week. And this is a story. This is a topic that if we do not keep it up, it's going to become even more pervasive than it is now, and it's got to be the sickest thing going on with all of humanity around the world.
John, why don't you start out and tell us about Franklin Cup? By the way, you've sold over 100,000 copies of your book.
Yeah, never spent one single penny ever advertising or promoting. It's just been, I guess, word of mouth and some talk shows like this over the years. And
yeah.
How can people get a hold?
Another edition. I just put a final, latest edition out, kind of updating things like since I ended up representing kids on Columbine, and I ended up representing grand jurors, and on the Oklahoma bombing, and so on and so forth, and the militias I took to Washington, militia leaders. Strange cases I've had the last 8 years since I got involved in this whole silly thing.
Yeah. Hey,
but
John.
Anyway, so I wrote the book literally at the instruction of my best friend and kind of godfather and former commander in Vietnam, a guy named Bill Colby. Bill had been the head of the Central Intelligence Agency, as you probably know, and ended up as I think as probably as a result of this whole case, found floating dead here a few years ago, 1996?
That's right.
Something like that in the Chesapeake Bay, and of course, officially no cause of death, but anyway.
Yeah. John, I'd like to ask you just one question about Bill Colby.
Yep.
Because in the latest edition of the book, you have a fantastic section in the back where you talk about Bill Colby.
Yeah.
And he said something to you that blew my mind, and I got to find out why and if you agree with it. He said that Bill Clinton was one of the best presidents we've ever had. Did he not know the same Bill Clinton I'm referring to from Arkansas?
Well, remember, this was early on.
Okay.
And Bill Colby was, as you know, Mr. Republican.
Sure.
Of course, he was fired by Mr. Kissinger because Colby, dared to go before the U.S. Congress and flat out told the senators at the famous hearings that the CIA had indeed gotten out of control and had almost created a secret government. And he said, yes, we do need to be brought in and be accountable, because we can only have a secret, intelligence agency if we are accountable to elected people. And whenever they get too powerful or have their own systems of secret funding and everything else and out of control, they become a danger that can really cause serious problems. And he, after he became head of the CIA, saw some of the things that had developed there. He went before the Congress, and then, of course, Mr. Kissinger convinced Mr. Ford immediately after Ford took over there, President Ford, to fire Colby, and Colby was then replaced by a man named George Bush Sr.
That's right.
Well, he knew how to control the CIA.
Huh?
George Bush Sr. knew how to control the CIA.
Well, anyway.
Yeah, well... Hey.
Colby was the one that told me to write the book. He got involved in the same case, and when I asked him advice on some things one day in his Washington, D.C. home, he said, I'm going to tell you what to do, John. I said, okay, because, I don't know what to do anymore. It's gotten so serious, and the things that are showing up, and I think I've got proof for, are frightening as to some of the people involved and the seriousness of it. And he says, get as far away from it as you can,